We screwed up with music streaming, and I don't think there's any going back. Artists have been struggling for years with pennies for their streams.
Money is tight, too tight to mention, because these smart asses download tunes for niche.
Music streaming gave us more music than we could ever dream of, but very much by accident, streaming services created this perfect storm.
Spotify is evil. They are never going to be an ally to songwriters.
$12 a month for all the music ever made is not enough money.
The guy who owns Spotify doesn't even make music and he's a billionaire. We're not getting anything. You know, it's disrespectful.
A storm that has allowed stream farms to make millions of dollars or to let artists pay their way to success. And more recently, it's a storm that has allowed completely AI-generated music to rise to the top of the charts.
It might blow your mind because this photo could have easily fooled anyone who's over 60 and or legally blind.
And the thing is that making fake music is just too good of a business, as in $1 million per month in revenue, easy. So today I'm digging into the accidents that got us here, but more crucially, into the incredibly profitable economics of fake streams.
And they wonder why there's no real rock and roll stars around, because this is the shit you got us doing, f***ers.
There are 3 core pieces of tech that got us to where we are. The first one is obviously streaming, but not so much streaming itself, but the economics of streaming. You'll often read that a Spotify artist makes about $2 to $5 per 1,000 song streams. That's not exactly right, and we need to break that number a lot further because it's the first clue on how to game this system. First of all, Spotify mostly deals with record labels and music distributors, that is, the companies that own the rights to the music, not with the artists themselves. It's not them uploading the music. So the payout that Spotify makes is divided amongst a lot of middle people before it gets to the artist. Napster, MP3s, iTunes, they're all probably culprits on this thing, but you guys don't like it when I go that far back with my stories. The point is, carrying scratchable discs was not convenient, but what choice did we have? Buying a whole $12 record for just 2-3 songs that you might like is not convenient. Buying just one song for 99 cents was way better. But even paying $1 per song was somewhat inconvenient for some people, hence piracy. Now, coming into the 2010s, record labels were desperate to reinvent music, and they made a deal with the devil. Around 2008, Sony, Warner, Universal, they all got equity stakes in this new up-and-coming startup called Spotify.
But have you heard of Spotify?
And they agreed to a new kind of music deal. Instead of charging per song or per stream, they'd work with this novel revenue sharing model built around a single revenue pool called the stream share pool. That means that all ad revenue and all subscription revenue that Spotify makes would go into this pool of money. And then from that pool, Spotify could take about 33%, about a third of the revenue for providing the app, the service, marketing. And then the remaining 66% would go to the record labels and distributors as royalty, proportional to the number of streams that each song got. Okay, so let's work with some of these numbers. There were 4.8 trillion songs streamed in 2024, and an estimate of 32% of those happened in Spotify. So Spotify made $15.6 billion in 2024, mostly from the premium subscriptions, a little bit from the ad revenue. So all of that gets baked into the pool, and about 2/3 of that is paid out in royalties. So that would be about $10.3 billion, which is now divided by the 1.52 trillion streams that happened in Spotify, by my estimates. So that means about $0.0067 per stream, or $6.7 per 1,000 streams. Again, that number needs to be subdivided once again between the record owner, the copyright holder, and finally, a smaller fraction trickles down to the artists. That math lets you calculate, for example, that Taylor Swift, that got, what's that, like 26 billion streams in 2024? That's 1.75% of all streams that happened in Spotify. That translates to about $179 million in royalties. Now, Spotify proudly brags that the 100,000th ranked artist on the platform made almost $6,000 in royalties in 2024. In other words, at least 100,000 people, 100,000 artists above them made over $6,000 on the platform. They also note that these payouts have 10x'd over the last 10 years. And you may also argue that Spotify also gives independent artists a gateway to get their work out, completely cutting the middlemen. But that's gonna bite them in the ass. But this brutal shift in the industry, buying entire albums for $10, $12 into streaming singles, only the singles for pennies, ended up being brutal to the artists. But this video is not about whether streaming was good or bad in and of itself. It's more about how it was the first of 3 triggers to this perfect storm. And the problem lies with the algorithmic nature of music discovery. Spotify responds and pushes trending music based on how much people listen to it. Top-ranked songs get there based on how many people are excited about this new piece of music, which is just ripe to be gained with technology. And this isn't new, mind you. In the old radio days, we had something similar called payola. Record labels would pay DJs on the radio to play their songs and force their popularity onto their listeners. And this was illegal, of course. And the reason is that this payout was undisclosed paid advertising. But the outcome of payola, if it worked, was that you managed to pay your way to the top, and then you could reap the benefits of being at the top. Real record sales, real merch sales, real potential fans.
No, this is not our first wedding. This is the third wedding that Scrantonicity has played.
Now, a big criticism of Spotify is that they offer bands the chance to be featured on this Discovery playlist in exchange for a discounted royalty rate, which is kind of like payola, but a video for another day. So, advertising your spot in the charts isn't a streaming specific problem. The problem is that streaming likes to make millions of dollars on those fake streams because of a terrible loophole in how the system works. Now, speaking of loopholes, if you're looking for an almost cheating competitive advantage for your company, you should look into Attio, our AI-native CRM for the next generation of companies. With Attio, AI isn't just a feature, it's the foundation of the platform. Attio lets you sync your email and your calendar and hit the ground running in minutes because it imports all of your existing data, your leads, your customers, the companies that you've interacted with, and it maps them out on your dashboard. And so this is a custom CRM that's tailored to each business model, to each company, and to what you do in the company, whether it's sales or customer success or even startup fundraising. All your leads get enriched by Attio automatically, and you can prospect and route them with research agents. You can build powerful AI automations for your most complex workflows and even get real-time intelligence during your conversations with customizable templates that you can use to track exactly what you care about during a call. This tedious task of filing in a CRM, gone. As an SDR, your focus becomes client attention, not taking notes, because that's all done automatically. Email follow-ups, automatic. Automatic delivery by time zone, out of office detection, and incredibly powerful reports on the performance of your entire automation stack. We started testing Attio to replace our current CRM, and I was really blown away. It felt like AI doing what it should be doing in 2025. And it starts at just $29 a month. Industry leaders like Granola, Flatfile, Replicate, and more are all experiencing what's next. Attio pitched into the production of this video and is offering you guys a 15% discount if you sign up using the link in the description or this QR code here. Okay, so back to that music industry loophole.
It's a jam session. We go where the music takes us.
I think the music left without you.
Now the problem here comes from the fact that the revenue sharing is pool-based instead of user-based. If you pay Spotify Premium and you only play one song in the entire month to your favorite indie revel band, then your $10 subscription should, in theory, go to that band. But that's not how Spotify works. Instead, your $10 go to the pool. So the band generates their $0.006 per stream, just like everybody else, and then you partially funded that 2% of the pool that went to Taylor Swift.
I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
Enter fake listens, the perfect way to game this system. You always see these viral clips online about the click farms with all the phones in some remote part of the world. I actually dug a little deeper. I found the parts that you would need to build one, and I budgeted our own click farm. It's wild, let me show you. So the first crazy part about this thing is the phone farm rig. It's basically this rack that lets you plug a bunch of phone motherboards without having to pay for the rest of the expensive components in a phone, like your screens. You just need the motherboard for the thing to work. Now, each one of these things supports up to 20 phone motherboards. Each one of these could go for as little as like $19, and that doesn't even count potential cheaper motherboards because you buy used phones or stolen devices. Then let's add one monitor for each one of these rigs that we create to our budget, and let's add maybe $3 or so for cables and other stuff that we might need to get this all connected. So how many of these racks could we build? An example, a Bulgarian stream farm caught in 2017 was operating at around 1,200 Spotify premium accounts. It's important that the accounts are premium to reduce the chances of getting flagged, to avoid wasting stream time or fake stream time with ads. And a paid family account on Spotify, in theory, will let you stream from 6 devices at the same time. So let's maybe use the Bulgarian guy as a reference. 1,200 Spotify premium accounts at 6 devices per account means that we could theoretically, with a real example, do 7,200 devices. So 7,200 motherboards, we would need around 360 racks to do that. And this gives us a setup cost for this whole thing of around $400,000. But don't worry, you're gonna be surprised how quickly we can recoup that money with fake streams. So let's get to ongoing costs now. If we sign those 1,200 Spotify premium accounts from a developing country, ideally one that doesn't have an extradition deal with the States, we're gonna look at around $10 for each one of those Spotify premium family accounts. Now, we can estimate around 2 cents per device per month in electricity. These are phones, they don't even have screens, so they're not gonna spend too much money in power. Then let's add a warehouse and some really poorly paid employees, maybe 4 people that rotate and monitor this whole thing. That gives us around $15,000 worth of costs. So with this setup, assuming that you stream 3.5-minute long songs 24/7, a stream would end up costing about $0.00017. Now, I found this service that sells 100,000 streams, 100,000 plays for $299. That's basically $0.003 per stream. That's what they charge the artist that's looking to get fake streams, fake promotion to themselves. So if we sell out the stream inventory in our setup, we're looking at around $250,000 in gross profit the first month. Compare that to your stream costs, that would yield around 95% gross profit margin. We basically cover our setup costs by the second month, and by the 6th month, we've already made $1 million in net profits. I genuinely didn't want this thing to reflect such a good business. Illegal business, but yeah. Now, an even better deal is that you don't need to stream a whole song for Spotify to pay you royalties. Spotify just pays you if you get 30-second streams, not even the full song. So you could just code these set of phones so that they skip the track just after hitting half a minute, putting the potential for our rig at $1.7 million in revenue per month. There are probably a few other expenses that I didn't account for here. You need some VPNs, you need some SIM cards to try and mask the 500 million streams that our rig could generate per month. But you get the point. The Bulgarian dude actually made over $1 million with his stream farm, which again came from the pool, this stream pool of real artists. But he didn't even need a rig as big as the one I've just budgeted because he was streaming his own songs. And that's where things get really fucked up in this mess. The third pillar to our storm. Music is, or at least was, an art form. Right? And part of that was because of how intentional music was at some point. You would make the financial decision to buy a record, to treat it carefully, and to play it when you were in the right mood. Cassettes were the thing when I was a kid. And then came CDs, but I ended up buying a vinyl player precisely to be reminded of that very intentional experience with music. But that's not how we listen to music anymore. Music is now the background of your driving, of your commuting, of your housework, or your TikTok video. Like democratizing music turned it into a background activity. People listen to about 20 hours of music a week, but most of the time they're listening, this is a passive experience while they're doing something else. How much attention does that leave for listening to the lyrics or appreciating the arrangement? I don't know, whatever music people like to hear.
Wow, these are horrible lyrics.
Just listening to the artist's intentions or their feelings. 75% of remote workers listen to music while they're working from home. I am shit at multitasking, which means my attention is on my screen, not on the words that are blasting to my ears. And moments where you're just listening to the music are extremely rare. And so enter a new kind of music. Music that's engineered, composed to be in the background. And don't get me wrong, by the way, if you have trouble focusing or sleeping, these lo-fi music sound escapes, they're really great. Just look at Lo-Fi Girl, a phenomenon of 2 billion views on YouTube, embedded everywhere in pop culture.
You know that Lo-Fi Girl on YouTube?
The Lo-Fi Girl that everyone knows has finally graduated from studying.
Lo-fi very much spearheaded this phenomenon, where music is much more about the ambience than the artist itself. Like, I couldn't name a single artist that streamed on Lo-Fi Girl, even though I've been listening to that thing for years. The Lo-Fi Girl channel is the pet project of French music enthusiast called Dimitri Smogny, who came out recently to confirm that all of the music in the roster is signed or licensed from real human producers. But here's the trick. Would we be able to tell if it wasn't? Now, I studied film and animation, and my eye can still spot the weird glow in AI-generated footage, but even for trained eyes, the line is starting to blur.
An AI-generated video of bunnies on a trampoline went viral this week, and it fooled a lot of people online.
As for music, it's a lot easier to fool me, and I'm not alone. A 2024 paper published by the Audio Engineering Society ran 200 plus people of different ages through the experiment of detecting AI versus human-made music. And the AI was able to fool about 50% of the audience. Another blind test had humans rate a piece of music without knowing that it was AI generated, and 100% of people praised the music positively without even suspecting that it was generated by AI. More crucially even, for 68% of them, their perception of the piece didn't change after finding out that it was AI generated. I think it's too late to argue about the ethics of creating this technology because the technology already exists, so it's not going away. The big problem though is that the current music ecosystem gives AI generated music an extremely unfair advantage because this music lives in the same realm as your favorite real anti-establishment rebel indie band. It competes for the same ears in the same platform and gets paid out of the same royalty pool. You could even argue background music is bound to get more streams simply because people listen to it in the background and it could just play all day.
It always makes the trip go faster.
To make matters worse, fully AI bands are starting to jump into the mainstream. Whether they were aided or not by fake streams, the news broke in July that a band called Velvet Sundown had hit 1 million streams on Spotify. That's $6,000 in revenue by my calculation.
They're not real, are they? They're fake.
And all of their music was 100% AI generated using Suno. Suno is no scammy startup, by the way. They're venture backed. They raised over $100 million in venture funding. They're kind of the real deal.
It's marketing, it's trolling. People before, they didn't care about what we did, and now suddenly we're talking to Rolling Stone, so it's like, is that wrong?
Funny enough, the guy that Rolling Stone and the Washington Post interviewed seemed to be playing a prank himself because he was trying to pass as a band member, or I guess one of the creators of this music, and he was not related to the band at all. Take a listen to their hit song, Dust in the Wind. Play it for your friends, see how they react. I've tested it, and most people won't notice. Now, I've given you this trifecta of circumstances that brought us to where we are now, but this is no imaginary hypothetical scenario. Like, there's a real case of this dude called Michael Smith who's been indicted for fraud for creating hundreds of fake artists on Spotify and streaming millions of their songs. Over 600,000 streams per day. The indictment says that he had billions of streams and $10 million plus in royalties. It's happening. He also had this clever trick that I didn't figure out, which was creating alphabetically consecutive band names. So I'm assuming that you get some automatic plays for just falling into this loophole and getting just alphabetical recommendations. At this point for our channel, we have enough revenue, luckily, to afford real music. We pay Tom Fox, who's a fantastic composer that we license our music from. But how many smaller channels aren't able to and are just gonna resort to this? And this might be the tip of the iceberg to a much darker, soulless world, or it might be the opposite. It might be the beginning of a world where we pay a real premium for the real stuff. Check out our video last week on the 3 potential worlds that AI could create. Catch you on the next one.